Yeah, that was a big thing back then, and what you had talked about with Pearl Harbor too. For those that don't know, the Hilo Tribune, they actually here in Hawaii, because that's where I live right now. They had actually the week before November 30th, they had an article on the front page of the Hilo Tribune stating that Japan may strike this weekend, and I've got a PDF copy of the actual newspaper. So I mean, the local newspaper knew about it. It's not far fetched, and when the 9 congressional.
No, I saw that myself, incidentally. And, the Morse intercept operator, Tyler, I can't remember his last name, he intercepted all the information that the Japanese were on their way. And he sent the information to Washington, and it was never sent back to the High Command, Admiral Kimmel, and others in Hawaii. So they didn't know. And they tried to blame it on Kimmel and others. And of course, in years after that, they were absolved of any blame. But it was dreadful what government did. I mean,
yeah,
you know how many people died in that war? Hundreds of millions.
Yep, and Admiral Kimmel actually had written a book. I actually read that book, and it cleared the name of, what was it, Admiral Theobald? Oh, no, excuse me. Admiral Theobald wrote a book about Admiral Kimmel and General Short, clearing their names because they didn't get the
I have the book. I have the book.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a big, thick book too.
yeah, it sure is.
That's
hey, I want to start lining up the phones, you guys. So I'm going to go to a caller, if you don't mind. I'm going to hit the Skype line here. We're going to miss our 8 o'clock break here by about 15 minutes. So at 8:15, when Bob leaves us, we'll start our normal commercials again. But we're going to go to a Skype caller right now. And as soon as you can hear me, you're on with the gang here on Freedomizer.
Hello.
Hello, you're on.
Okay. I was just calling to ask Bob Chapman what he thinks that could change the trend that he sees. Is 2 petitions. We signed them. One is to investigate the weather modification.
Oh, that's good.
And the other one?
And the other one, I think, was something about the health care bill.
Well, that's good as well. And another thing in the forefront is the investigation and audit of the Federal Reserve. And there's a number of other issues as well, such as executive orders and campaign contributions and lobbying and the Patriot Acts 1 and 2 and the breaking up of Homeland Security. I mean, these are all in the forefront. And the solution to that is voting the incumbents out of office in November. And if American people don't do that, they're doomed. It's as simple as that. 95% of them are on the take. They're not going to listen to you because all they want is the money and the power. And you got to get them out of there. And that's the bottom line.
Right, but the one thing that people think of the line of thought there is, yes, we can vote them out, but then the machine is there for any new incumbents.
Well, let me tell you what the alternative is. Do you know how to fire an AR-15 or an M16 or an AK-47? Well, if you don't, you better go and find out how to do that, because that's the alternative.
Right. I'm not saying that I wouldn't vote them out. I would.
But no, I mean, just generally speaking, that's where it's going to end up.
Right.
Well, and that's in Revelation, too, that there's going to be a worldwide war and no stone will be left unturned. So every country is going to be in this, whether they're in it now or in 6 months, they will be involved in this.
Right.
Well, I hope to God it doesn't come. But at the rate we're going, if the American public does not wake up, and they have the key to the world to stopping these people, if they don't wake up, it is over.
Well, the good news is there's a couple of petitions, and I'm sure there's more that are going to be circulating for people to sign and take at least one route to stop.
Well, go
ahead.
Well, here's the problem with these petitions right now, and this is exactly what they're doing with the health care reform. I don't know if anybody heard, but today they're talking about being passed, by which even in Congress they don't want the health care bill, and yet they're working towards being passed, which passes the Senate and House, by which they don't have to vote on it. It just gets passed as law regardless. So
I was listening to that last night.
Yeah, and that's very important for people to be aware of, too, because it doesn't matter what you want. It really doesn't. And the reason for this is that not enough people are awake. Sadly, the people that are, and there's millions, but there's still a couple 100 million that aren't, and they're still very much unaware of the situation surrounding them.
Oh, you're right. And so a lot of people are hoping the health care passes so they can get insurance.
Well, the insurance company is the one who's going to profit from that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's 40 million new policy.
And along with that, if you really looked at it, they could have passed it for a lot cheaper money, gotten the 33 million people that were uninsured, or 36 million that were uninsured. The people could have paid a lot less taxes, and there would have been a lot less imposition on a socialistic, communistic healthcare.
Yeah.
So you know what they're after? They're after people control.
Right.
Exactly.
There's mandatory vaccines in that bill. A few other things.
That's right. Yeah. Mandatory. In fact, I've seen, maybe 20 families just in the last few months leave the United States because they won't allow their children to be vaccinated.
Right. I would do
Right.
that.
And if you think the vaccinations are bad now, just wait until this health care bill comes in.
Oh, then they don't have any controls. They can just do it. It's mandatory. That's it.
I mean, even if you don't have an allergy to strawberries, you have to take the strawberry allergy vaccine. And I'm not just making it up. I mean, that's legitimately if there's a food allergy, you have to take a shot for it whether you have that sickness or not.
It's all about the pharmaceutical companies making money. And the control of the pharmaceutical companies is held by the Illuminati.
Right.
All right. Does that answer your question? By the way, I didn't catch who you were. Have you called in here before?
Mountain Woman. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a pleasure having you on, and I'm going to cut to a couple other callers because we have like maybe 10 to 12 minutes left.
Okay. Well, good night.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Travis out in South Carolina. Then we're going to follow with Chad in Kentucky. And Travis, you're on.
Hey, how you guys doing? How you doing, Mr. Chapman? Appreciate you joining us and all you do. I just wanted to ask you particularly about Iceland and what they've done by rejecting the banks. Do you see any consequences for them as far as possible? I mean, like land grabbing, or where do you see that going? I was just kind of interested in your take on that.
Well, it's hard to say which way it'll go, but my guess is what the British and Dutch governments will do, particularly the British. They will make life extraordinarily difficult for these people. And what will they do? They may cut off their ability to clear financial transactions through SWIFT code and other banks in Western Europe. They may cut off their internet service. They may cut off their telephone service to their countries from Iceland. In fact, service, they may cut off the postal. They may cut off flights. I mean, you have no idea how evil these people are. These people in Iceland who voted against that, some 93%, they had nothing to do with what the bank did. The bank went under. They're not responsible for that. But they're a small group of people. What is there? 380,000 people on the whole country. And Britain and Holland think they can get away with forcing them to pay for the deposits. And bankruptcy is bankruptcy, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and I also noticed in the Telegraph it was saying that their natural resources may be threatened by the EU's common fisheries policy, which would make their fish stocks a common resource. And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens to them. And yeah, but I do love what they did, that they stood up to the banks.
They certainly did.
Well, thanks. Thanks for taking my call, guys. Enjoy the show.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Travis. All right, we're going to go to Chad real quick, and then we have a caller in Ohio, and we might have one if it's available in Michigan, and then I think that's it for Mr. Chapman for tonight. So, Chad, you're on the air.
All right. Once again, Bob, thank you for coming on the radio show, and I know you must be tired by now, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. There is a phrase that was said earlier back when Obama actually took office that you don't want to waste a good crisis. And there is a radio show host that I listen to that is also a Legal Foundation president and former Justice Department Chief of Staff. He made a quote, and it really jumped out at me, and it got me to thinking. And I'm just going to give you the quote, and I want to get your feelings on it. This is on the health care bill, by the way.